I feel like one of the primary reasons the Ncuti Gatwa era felt quite disappointing for a lot of people were the very lackluster finales. Personally, I don't think Empire of Death is as bad as people say they are, but mainly because it's just so cliched that everything it did didn't surprise me. With that said, I do think they could have been significantly improved, because they're so overstuffed with far too much going on, and bizarrely enough, character drama takes a weird back seat considering that is one of Rusty Davis's strengths. So if you were to ask me what I would do to improve these finales, well, I would make a pretty controversial change, which I know a lot of people are going to disagree with, and that is cutting the classic villains. That being Sutek, the Rani, and Omega. In my opinion, despite how much the stories big them up as the primary focus, really in most cases, they're just a massive distraction. Like, in my opinion, because the main arc of Season 1 is the mystery of who Ruby's parents are, that should be the primary focus, not who Susan Twist is. She's a pointless aspect of Season 1. You cut it, very little changes, and Sutek is just a generic end of the world, end of the universe plot we've seen dozens of times before, so there's no investment. We know that was going to get fixed. When you look past all the bigotry and hypocrisy of the 15th Doctor's era, in terms of the critics, you realise one of the most recurring valid criticisms of his Doctor and of Ruby is that people just didn't get a chance to get to know them and feel invested in their stories. I got lucky in terms of finding things I enjoy about them, but for many people they just couldn't get invested, and so a more minimalist finale which is focused on solving the mystery and maybe trimming down some of the red herrings so the answer of Ruby's mother was ordinary feels more narratively satisfying. Getting invested in that plot is a greater priority in the grand scheme of things than another invasion of Earth plot. Now, Reality War technically has a better story to incorporate that type of threat. I think having a villain wanting to destroy the world, I think it better suits that story than Empire of Death, but you don't need the Rani. In my opinion, all you needed was Conrad, because his story of being so consumed by prejudice he tries to rewrite the world in his design, but his philosophy is so flawed it keeps collapsing, is a perfectly valid form of commentary and exciting story. I don't mind how the Rani kind of hijacks it in theory, but there's just so little time and there are more important things to focus on that you could easily cut that plot. And when you look at Mrs. Flood, of all characters, outside of freeing Conrad, she is a completely superfluous character. No wonder people are disappointed. In the grand scheme of things, I know people love the Rani and Omega, the fans know these characters inside and out, but the casual audience don't. So having Conrad be the main antagonist, fleshing him out more, seeing the man behind the monster and how he may be all smug and confident in front of the camera, but behind it he's quite scared and isolated and miserable, that's more compelling than the Rani wanting to restore Gallifrey. Not to mention, in the context of Season 2, Conrad has more emotional ties to the Doctor, Ruby, Kate, even Shirley, so you can tie that into the finale so it feels more emotionally satisfying. I know some of these elements did make it into the final version, but they're fighting for so much screen time that they come off as really underdeveloped, and weirdly in the case of Conrad, while they try to make him sympathetic, it goes the wrong direction and weirdly seems supportive of his world when the whole point is to show how flawed this society is. Now, would this fix every problem with the finales? Probably not. There are a few things you could trim, like the oversized unit cast, but overall I think the reaction to these episodes will be a bit more positive, or at the very least more middling, simply because it's much more focused, and I think in the case of the classic fans who feel their favourite characters were betrayed and destroyed, wouldn't be as melodramatic because these are mostly original characters that they either get a better chance of liking or are just indifferent towards. So, what do you think of this idea in the comments below? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.